For the past week, the political world has been held hostage by a social media post by Donald Trump claiming that he was going to be arrested. So far, he hasn't. But who knows what the next week will bring? We explore the ins and outs of a potential case and the political ramifications. The Point starts right now. Annemarie McAvoy is a former federal prosecutor and a nationally recognized expert in financial crimes, which makes her just the person to talk about the possibility that the 45th president of the United States could be indicted for allegedly falsifying business records. Thank you so much for joining me. But I think that we have to preface our conversation by saying we really don't know everything that the grand jury has been shown. And so what we're talking about is based on what we do know or what we think we know. So having said that, what's your take on all this?
Well, it certainly is very interesting what's going on, and certainly somewhat unusual as well. We usually don't know what's going on in the grand jury. We have had one witness, Shapiro, who represented Michael Cohen, the main witness, along with Stormy Daniels, apparently before this grand jury. Shapiro came out and made a statement to the press about what he testified to, but other than that, it's mostly rumors as to what we've been hearing as to what's going on inside the grand jury at this point. So hard to say exactly what's going to happen. It seems now there's been some hesitation potentially as to looking for a true bill from this grand jury. So I think there is a possibility it could go either way at this point, perhaps an indictment and perhaps not. So what it seems that the Manhattan District Attorney wants to do is to charge the former president for falsifying business records to hide campaign finance violations that are tied to payments to an adult film star named Stormy Daniels. If that's the case, and we don't exactly know, is that a hard case to make? Very, given the fact that the case should be, if that's what the charges are, it looks like the case should be time barred. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get around a statute of limitations issue. So if it's the business records, it's usually 2 years for that. If there's a fraud charge involved, it's usually 5 years. And the acts that are the basis for what they're looking to apparently charge him for are all much longer than that. So, but is this really a state case or is it a federal case? I mean, that's the other thing. Yes. It seemed from what I've read that they're trying to find some way to get it into the federal election law area, which would make it a federal case. And how do you charge in state court for a federal case? It's a novel case, as has been said quite a bit in the press these days, which means new, unusual, different. And certainly the state prosecutors normally are not bringing a case like this. And the Southern District of New York looked at this case. The campaign finance part of it decided not to go forward with it, as did the Department of Justice, as did Cy Vance, the prior DA, as did Bragg himself when he first came into office. So it's been looked at a number of times and everybody's taken a pass on it. But for some reason, they decided to have this grand jury take a look at it now at this point instead. And according to Trump, there were potential charges pending where they might actually have him arrested. I guess the question that a lot of people's mind is this. So Alvin Bragg, when he first came into office as the district attorney, decided to shut down the grand jury that was investigating Donald Trump. And we don't know whether it was just the Stormy Daniels case or it was also business records, because there have been some cases that have been brought by the Attorney General, Tish James, about falsifying business records and the value of properties and things like that, and there is a pending case involving that. But as a result of that, 2 prosecutors who were handling the grand jury quit, saying that there was a case we made against Trump. One of them wrote a book. So my question is, do you think that the fact that the prosecutor wrote a book
a former prosecutor wrote a book, goaded Alvin Bragg into reopening this case.
It may well have. It's hard to figure out exactly why he's decided at this point to impanel a grand jury to look at Trump. But that's a possibility. It may also be because Trump has now officially announced that he is running for president again. Perhaps that's why there's been talk.
Are you saying that this could be political?
Most people have more than one reason for doing things. Certainly, he was slammed in the book that came out by Pomerantz, who was one of those prosecutors. So it's probably some combination of all of that, is my guess. And he has, I'm sure, political aspirations for himself, and he's certainly talked about a lot nationwide and, in fact, internationally as well, given what's going on right now. And most people wouldn't know who Bragg is, especially outside of New York City. But because of this, everybody knows who he is now.
So let's talk about the fact that the key witness is Michael Cohen. Now, as we all know, Michael Cohen used to work for Donald Trump and was sort of a fixer and took care of things for him. So the question is, given the fact that he also went to jail for this, if this comes to trial, wouldn't a defense attorney have a field day with him?
Certainly, he's a very difficult witness for a prosecutor to have to use, because one of the things he pled guilty to is lying under oath. And there are lots of conflicting stories that have come out already as far as, whether he, in fact, told Trump or didn't tell Trump or got reimbursed for these funds or didn't. You don't know what the truth is from this man, and that is going to be a problem for the grand jury. And if it gets past the grand jury, it'll be a problem at trial. But that doesn't mean that a prosecutor won't bring a case, because I'm a former federal prosecutor and state assistant DA as well, and you wind up many times in crimes with people involved in some way or with knowledge of a crime who are not the best people in the world or not the most honest people, and sometimes that's who you use at trial, and you still can get convictions potentially.
Yeah, but don't you really have to have this witness say, I may have lied before, but now I'm not lying, and how do you prove that now? Which was the lie?
That's
when I admitted to lying under oath, but now I'm telling the truth. I mean, how do you put, you're a former prosecutor 2 times over. How would you put a witness like that on the stand and defend him and make him credible to a jury?
Well, what you try to do is you try to support the statements that he's making now with other evidence that shows that he's being truthful at this point. So you would hope that perhaps there might be emails or letters, but apparently from what we heard from Michael Cohen's attorney, Shapiro, who spoke to the press earlier in the week when he testified, it seems like there may in fact be emails and letters that go against what Michael Cohen is saying now. So it makes it much more difficult to use him certainly as a main witness in this prosecution.
So do you suspect that there's more to the case than we now know publicly?
Certainly it could be. I mean, the grand jury is supposed to operate in secret. So everything that we are talking about, most of it is rumor. We don't know exactly what is going on. Bragg has not said what exactly is going on before the grand jury. There could be other charges that they're looking at. It might not just be the ones that are being talked about right now. We don't know.
But you would guess that they'd have to have more than we know now.
We would hope, because it seems like an incredibly weak case if this is all they have, and a case that will probably not even make it to a jury because it'll be dismissed on a motion because it's time barred.
Okay, we'll have to leave it right there for now, but our conversation continues right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York.